What's going on, everybody? I'm Aaron Pryor, Big 12 digital correspondent. The man in the box next to me, of course, one of the most decorated players in TCU basketball history, Desmond Bane. Desmond, thanks for taking the time. How you been?
Man, I've been good. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So, kind of catch me up once March finished up, and I know things were crazy, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But what have you been doing since then?
I've had a chance to get down here to Miami to work out. I got down here early in April. Signed with my agency. We've been taking all the precautions in order to stay safe and remain healthy in these crazy times. But it's been a blessing to have somewhere to work out and get better over these times.
What has a typical a day or even a week looked like for you since you've been down there?
Yeah, so we're going about 6 days a week. We'll start out rehab recovery, 30 minutes, and then strength conditioning, hour and a half, on court, hour and a half. Hit the rehab recovery afterwards, and then I'll come back, in the afternoon and shoot. So I mean, I'm spending majority of my day in the gym. It's been good.
Have you been working out with with a group of guys, or is it kind of a thing where everything's got to be segmented so no one's really interacting too much?
Yeah, I mean the numbers have been somewhat limited, but I've been in there with quite a few NBA players, and it's been good to be able to see where I stack up against them.
So, what are some of those little things that you've picked up from the NBA guys that you've been working out with so far that have really helped you?
It's that next step mentality. Like guys like Michael Beasley, who have been in and out of the league. They're still working as if they're an NBA player and working to be on a roster in the coming seasons. Being able to take that from him, no matter what situation you're in or what situation presents itself, continue working and stay ready.
Are there any guys that are on the current Miami Heat roster? You said you were down there that you've been working with.
Yeah, they've been in and out of the gym. A few of those guys have been in and out of the gym, and it's been good to stack up against those young, talented guys and see where I'm at.
Let's go back to some of your TCU days. I know they just kind of wrapped up a couple months ago, but back in March, right before the tournament started, the Big 12 tournament, I asked you, have you reflected on anything yet? And you said, I'm focused on the moment and I'll have time to do that later. Well, now that it's later, have you had a chance to kind of reflect on some of your accomplishments while you were a Horn Frog?
No question. I mean, it was a blessing to play for TCU and wear the purple and white. But looking back on all the things that we accomplished, we get to the tournament, we win NIT championship. I leave as a winningest all time player. I mean that means a lot to me. Those three things for sure.
When you were a freshman, starting every once in a while, not getting a ton of minutes, would you have ever thought that you would be where you are now?
I mean, no question. I mean, even in these NBA interviews, they asked me about my path and what I was thinking when I committed to TCU and things like that. And I understood that it could be a process. I'm going to a Big 12 school, playing in one of the best conferences in the country. I'm ready for whatever's thrown my way, and it just so happened that Coach Dixon blessed me with an opportunity early on, and the rest is history.
You mentioned coming to a Big 12 school. How did playing in the Big 12 help prepare you for the NBA?
No question. I mean, the NBA, it's an 82 game season. So, night in and night out, you're playing against the best players in the world. And, in the Big 12, it's somewhat similar. You fly to a West Virginia on Tuesday, and then, you got a Kansas coming to your place on Saturday. So, you got to be able to, bounce back quick, put the good and the bad behind you, and focus on the next opponent.
Who are one or two players outside of maybe TCU, but one or two players in the Big 12 that you played against this year whose game you respect the most?
I like Jared Butler a lot from Baylor. Young guy can score multiple ways. I respect him a lot. I also like Halliburton too. I like the way he plays. Unselfish with the ball. Always has a smile on his face. So those are two guys that I respect a lot in the league.
Have you been in contact with any of those guys that are kind of going through the draft process like you are?
Yeah, no question. I mean, we all follow each other on social media, and we'll keep tabs, on each other throughout the process. I spoke with a few guys from the Big 12 as well as guys across the country about their process and how it's going.
That's awesome. What was your favorite moment from your senior season this past year?
Probably definitely beating Baylor. I mean, nobody really expects us to win that game, and we're one of those teams that are in those type of games all year long. Playing against Kansas, and we beat Tech at home, beat West Virginia at home. So it was good for our program and good for our team to get that win for sure.
Let's look ahead now. Take me through what some of this pre-draft stuff has been. You mentioned the workouts and whatnot, but how about the interviews and kind of how all that stuff works? For someone that hasn't been through it and might not totally understand how the process works.
Yeah, no question. So, I mean, the process is obviously different. This year I tested waters last year, so I kind of got a taste for it. Bringing you into facilities and getting to meet people face to face. Now it's been virtual, so obviously it's been different, but I feel like we've still been able to get the message across. Of figuring out who I am and figuring out a little bit about the organizations as well.
How did having Coach Dixon as your head coach help prepare you for these moments?
No question. I mean, Coach Dixon, I always tell people that, is far more than basketball. He taught me life lessons, off the court as well, just with the way he acted and his demeanor. So, I mean, I thank him a lot for sure. And I feel prepared for, the next level and for life in general.
Has this process been? I know it's the first time, and really, I guess the only time you would have gone through the whole thing. But has it been difficult with some of the unknowns that this pandemic has caused?
A little bit. It's been a little bit different, because obviously, there are potentially no combine, no team workouts,
Yeah,
and things like that. So I feel like the interviews may hold a little bit more weight, and teams are going to do a lot more film study. I mean that those are the two resources that they'll have throughout this process, and I feel like I've done well in those areas.
certainly helps that you've started quite a few games, won a few games too, and have teams commented on that it's great that they have so much tape of you to be able to kind of look and see what you can bring.
No question. When we've been going into these interviews, there hasn't been too many questions about, me as a player
Hmm.
because I feel like they have a good understanding of who I am and what I bring to the table and what I'm capable of doing on an NBA floor. So it's more of getting to know me as a person and know what makes me tick and, if they can count on me from a leadership perspective as well.
So I'll get you out of here on this. We talked about the tape; it's there and the types of questions. But if I'm an NBA head coach or GM, why do I want you on my team?
Because I'm accountable. I'm somebody that you can throw on an NBA floor and get the job done. Whether it be get a stop, make a shot, rally up the teammates. I'm somebody that you can count on a day to day basis.
Desmond, one of the all-time greats in TCU history. We certainly look forward to your future success. Thanks for taking the time today, and best of luck with everything that's to come.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.